This podcast is intended for mature audiences only.
Well, welcome everybody to Cuckold Marriage Podcast. I'm Chris, and I'm here with the one and only goddess herself, cuckoldress Lexie Meadows. I am so excited to be here. Lexie, are you excited to be here?
Totally.
So we are starting this podcast. This is our first episode, so kind of give us a little bit of grace as we go along and as we kind of get used to doing this and figuring out all the technology behind it and editing and all of those pieces. But we are a married couple, and some of you may have heard Lexie on the Venus Cuckoldress podcast, which came out in February. And Venus is the best, right?
She's amazing. I love her.
And so after Lexie was on Venus, she just really enjoyed being able to tell her story. And then we were able to join one of Venus's pillow talks, and we just really liked it. And Venus is such a strong advocate for the women's voice within the cuckolding community. And then you have folks like the Cuck My Life folks, speaking from the cuck's perspective. You have Bulls and Queens with Doc Chocolate talking about a bull. And so we just really wanted to kind of be able to provide a couple's perspective.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There's kind of a void in that. There's no couples showing how they live their dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we wanted to come on here and just really provide an honest perspective that's a balanced perspective from both, Lexie and myself, and talking about different aspects of the cuckolding lifestyle and different lifestyles within kind of that spectrum, whether that be from stag vixen to female-led relationship, cuckolding relationships. There's a whole kind of spectrum as it goes along this way. But we're going to talk about all that as we go along. We're going to have some guests on this podcast as we go along. I think the first several we have kind of planned out of what we want to talk about, but I'm just really looking forward to kind of sharing our story. And Lexie, I thought maybe we would start for anybody who didn't hear Venus with kind of our story of, from your perspective, how did this get started between, I guess first with you and then between you and I?
Well, I had had a prior relationship for an extended period of time, about a decade, where he had come forth and been like, I kind of am into this. What do you think about this? And I thought, well, why not? Variety, right? Am I right, ladies? Yeah, who wouldn't like variety? So, I did that in a prior relationship. And then when I started dating Chris, we were still very fresh in our dating. And he just came right out with it in a text message, no less. And was basically like, hey, I've kind of always had this fantasy, and what do you think about maybe trying this sort of relationship? And maybe we could go to some sex clubs and do all these things. And I was kind of like, oh, all right, well then we're just going right into it, aren't we? Okay. So I just kind of responded with like all right, well, been there, done that. And so that got him really excited. He was pretty happy to hear that sort of response. Not sure what he was expecting, but yeah, it just kind of took off from there, our sexual relationship, at least.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, it was pretty cool, starting to date Lexie and just kind of realizing how open she was about just so many different things. So when I shot that text message, it wasn't just a shot in the dark, one in a million chance. I thought there was a greater than 0% chance that she might say yes to this sort of an agreement. And
Glad you had that confidence.
yeah, I am too. So, like I said, Lexie and I are new to this. So, we actually have some notes. So, if you're watching the video version of this, you may see us look down every now and then. So, excuses for that as we go along. We'll probably get better at this. But, Lexie and I wanted to kind of share some certain aspects. So, we wanted to make sure that we had all that stuff down. So, Lexie, did you want to kind of kick us off?
Well, I mean, starting off, I, I guess the first question would be like, what sort of made us want to come out with this publicly?
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, like I said, it really has to do with there not being a strong voice around a balanced married couple where you have, it's almost like if you're watching point of view porn, right? You get like the point of view of like both people at the same time. Like it's kind of cool to be able to get into two people's heads, both the cuckoldress, the hot wife, and the cuckold at the exact same time, which I think is kind of cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think is so important about everyone having both perspectives?
Well, sometimes, the cut perspective can be a bit unrealistic, maybe. And then quite frankly, like I mean, I know I speak for myself. I have no idea what's going through your mind 90% of the time when this is going on. So I'm looking forward to kind of learning along with the audience. I'll probably learn stuff about you and the way you function and what you're thinking as you're going along with this, because we're just kind of like living the lifestyle. We don't really sit, I don't know. I guess we do talk about it a lot, but I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yeah.
Lexi, what do you think most people get wrong about this type of a relationship, kind of from the word go? Because the cool thing about Lexi, and we're going to talk about this as we go along, is not only do we have a cuckold marriage, but you actually provide cuckold coaching, and you actually do virtual and in-person cuckolding for other guys who have a cuckold fantasy and have no real way to act it out. So you have not only like my perspective, but you work with like dozens of guys like
Right.
around the world. And so you get to hear like all these different fantasies and like what they're actually doing, what they want to do. So like what do most people get wrong, but either whether it's me or some of your other cucks?
Well, with you, I mean, so many things. But we don't have time for all that. I'm just kidding. I would say that a lot of people have this, they only think about it in a specific moment. So it's only about the sexy time. And it's not just about that. It's a lifestyle. So it's days before I go on a date with a bull or see another cuck, it's days after. It's the random little comments that I make here and there, the ways that I assert my control, the ways that I assert dominance, and ways of making him jealous, ways of feeding that fantasy that he has in his head. And my favorite things are whenever I catch him completely off guard. And those are the most fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And I mean, she couldn't be more right, is that we live it not as a scene. So for us, it's not just like that compact, like we're in the bedroom for an hour and then end scene, and then we go
Right.
back to like living our vanilla life. That's not like, this is how we live our life. That's not to say that every couple is going to experience it in the same way as us. For some folks, it is just like that scene, and then they go back to being normal. Or no, well, what is normal, right? Or they go back to being more like what society would say is more traditional.
You're right.
Um, but yeah, for us it is 24/7. I mean, I never know when Lexi is gonna tell me like, "Hey, go do this," like, "Hey, do this," or hey, just like randomly be like, "Cut, go get me a cup of coffee" or something like that.
It's not just that. It's also, a matter of just, let's say, in the instance of after, hey, you like this new perfume I got? Yeah, my bull got it for me last time I saw him.
Yeah.
I was wearing it when he fucked me last.
Yeah, she does do that kind of shit. It's amazing. It's pretty freaking great. She's really, really good at what she does, and I'm sure all your fellow cucks would say the same thing. But you know what's interesting about this dynamic is that we see it growing in popularity,
It's true.
and so I'm just, why do you think it is growing, Lexi? Why is it growing more visible?
Well, the internet. I mean, we now have a way to communicate with people all over the world at all hours of the day. And something that in the past, where when you didn't have those lines of communication, you had to hope to maybe feel out other couples and see if maybe they'd be into it. Whereas you can just now go online any time of day and look up information on it. You can go into chat rooms and talk about it. It's wildly available online. And so, I don't think that it's necessarily that it's something that people are, I mean, every day people are going online and discovering this and finding out, oh my gosh, well, I had never thought about this, but this is amazing. But a lot of the times I think that this isn't something that just is a trend or a fad that's becoming popular. I think that it's something that people have always had a fantasy for, and now it's just being talked about more because we have that ability to communicate with each other in amazing ways.
Yeah. And I think also just this whole movement over the last, I don't know how many years, maybe decade or something like that, about people really embracing who they are and just kind of growing comfortable with who they are and in the space. And I think that you saw, I know when I was dating, it was not uncommon on a dating profile to see E&M,
Yep.
ethically non-monogamous. Like that was like super common on like every dating app, whether that be, we're not talking about the fields, we're talking about the Tinders, the Bumbles, like the Hinges, like all had E&M, on them, ethically non-monogamous. But you don't really see the cuckold type relationship on there just yet. I know you and Venus
Yeah.
talked about that. You and Venus talked about that, but
Yeah.
I think just even that door being open to the spectrum of cuckolding and that kind of lifestyle has really moved the conversation. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, and absolutely. I mean, they say that over what was it, over 50% of people have fantasized about their partner being with someone else. And so, I mean, it's definitely a movement. It's coming, and I don't think that it's going to be too long before we see on those vanilla dating sites or sites that are more geared toward this sort of different lifestyle that that's going to become an option instead of just ethically non-monogamous. We're going to see, stag vixen, cuckold, cuckoldress, things like that showing up.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, so Lexi, I have a question because you work with a lot of different cucks. Do you think men or women are driving this more?
Men. I mean, it's definitely men, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, it's definitely men that seem to drive it. I mean, a man drove it in my previous relationship. You drove it in this one. All the women I've talked to, the men drive it. The men are the ones that bring it up. 99% of the time. I have come across a few, however, where the man has actually fantasized about it and the woman brings it up. And so it's sometimes the women are behind it, but I think that a lot of the time men tend to be the driving force behind it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% correct. From the guys that I talk to, it seems like it's the man wanting to drive it. But it does lead me to ask the question though. So men are asking for it. Like,
Mhm.
are women thinking about it beforehand? Like, I mean, are you like if you didn't have a hall pass, would you see a cute guy at a bar and still want to fuck him, but just not act on it? Like, I'm just
Of
curious.
course.
So basically, you're just having the ability to act on what's already going on in your head. So are you saying that? Because here's where I want to give some of our hopeful cucks some hope. So are you telling me that if we did not have this type of arrangement, you would still see a guy and want to fuck him every now and then?
Well, yeah, I think majority of women would, they just wouldn't act on it.
There we go, guys. Your wife does want to fuck somebody else. She just may not be doing it yet. You heard it here from Cuckoldress Lexi.
You got to be able to pry that out properly. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, and that I mean, and that's what part of what you do with your coaching, right? Is you
Yeah.
you help folks like pry it out the right way because if you do it the wrong way, it just you are so fucked. It's just
Too
done.
too much too soon. I mean, honey bunch, you got lucky.
Yeah,
But if it were a lot of other women, and especially if they had not had the experience that I'd had, and you were just to bust it out in text message when y'all were not very far along, um, she might have been running for the hills,
Mhm.
especially since it was so early. But even in a long-term married, committed relationship, you just spring it on someone too quickly, too strongly, it's a recipe for disaster. It can cause that lifelong or 5 year long or year long relation or fantasy to implode before it even began. So it's important to do it right. There are seeds that you have to, so you have to lay the foundation a little bit in order to get what you want. You most of the time you're not able to just spring it on a girl and expect a positive reaction.
right, exactly. Well, let's turn our attention kind of a little bit more to the psychology of cuckolding, since this is kind of
Mhm.
our first episode, and kind of just again that balanced viewpoint. Again, let's get in the head of the cuck, let's get in the head of the cuckoldress, and kind of talk about some of these items. So let's
Okay.
first talk about let's talk about jealousy. Like, do you have any questions for me, like specifically about like how jealousy, what that looks like?
How the heck does that become arousal?
That's a really damn good question. Man, if I solve that
I'm
problem,
a jealous girl,
yeah.
so like explain it to me because I'm very different, and that's what works with our relationship. We started off stag vixen, so you there's no you playing around. So how does the jealousy turn into arousal?
Well, so there is some data out there about this actually, and I'm not just bullshitting. This is like
Like
actually,
normal.
yeah, this is actually real. So, some of the stuff I've read around cuckolding is around kind of this human kind of male thing going back to like the Stone Age around like sperm competition.
All right.
And it's like that it's like, men when they're put in a position to need to compete for that, like there's a sense of like it fuels adrenaline, it fuels kind of competition, it just, fuels that arousal. But also the jealousy is really interesting because it's sort of like being in a haunted house or on a giant roller coaster.
Okay.
Like if you were to ask anybody, "Hey, is it okay if we take you up to the top of a building and drop you down like not enclosed at 60 miles per hour, would you be okay with that?" Most of the time you're going to say no. But for some reason when you're on a roller coaster and it feels like a safe environment, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it actually is very exciting. And it's the same way with a haunted house. You know that there are scary things that are going to pop out in a haunted house. Like you know that going in, but you do it anyways, and it's a rush. Um, so jealousy just mixes with a number of different emotions, and but it's definitely present. So if you are not currently active in this lifestyle, if you're somebody who is currently just in the fantasy phase, like just know like sounds super hot, like you are going to be jealous. Like that is 100% going to happen and it's going to be awful and awesome at the exact same time. So yeah, so that's my answer on jealousy. I mean, it might not be a good one. I mean, it's my personal opinion on jealousy. It feels like a roller coaster or a haunted house. But my question to you, as a cuckoldress, is what does power feel like in this dynamic?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it's wonderful. It's magical. It's basically the unbridled power to all in the same moment get to say something or do something that makes another person feel jealousy, arousal, um, fear, happiness, just excitement, joy, all these things all at once. And you're the driving force behind it. You're the one that created all of those emotions that are all happening at once. I mean, it's like it's a little intoxicating, really. I mean, it's wonderful.
All right, well, I'm actually really happy to hear that because, I'll say sometimes, as the person who brought it up and asked for it as the cuck. I always hope you're getting something out of it too. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I don't want it to be such a one-way street, which sounds like weird to say, right? Because I'm the one sitting home caged while you're out playing. Like it sounds weird to say, but that's how much we appreciate, kind of this dynamic. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does, and it certainly works out well for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. So you actually enjoy it.
I
And the
do.
variety and all that stuff you enjoy too?
It's nice, I mean, as much as you're not allowed to have any, I sincerely enjoy the fact of knowing that I can have variety whenever I want. I can have any cock I want, anytime, anywhere.
Yes, you can. And you mostly do. Okay. What about what do both partners get or that's something that's equally strong. So what are you getting out of this? And I guess what am I getting out of this? I guess we kind of answered that a little bit, but I can tell you from the cuck perspective. I guess the biggest thing I get out of this is connection.
Hmm.
Like cuck holding is so little about what happens in the bedroom.
It's true.
It's a mind fuck. It's the most intoxicating mind fuck ever. Um, but it also leads to this incredibly strong connection with your partner where you just have this if you're going to be in this lifestyle, you need to have the deepest level of trust humanly possible. Whether you are E&M, whether you are poly, whether you are swingers, whether you are stag vixen, whether you're cuckoldress, if you don't have that strong level foundation of trust and communication, this is going to not probably end well for you. I mean, what are your thoughts, honey?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it takes a certain type of mature relationship to have a dynamic like this. It's not something that you can enter into if you're not ready, and if the relationship's not ready, if you guys are on the outs, this is not something that is a relationship saving operation here. It's something that you really have to both want it equally, and you have to both be getting something out of it, and you have to be able to have adult conversations about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think most people misunderstand about the dynamic?
I mean that it's that it's all one way, and that it's all just for us ladies, it's all just, go do this, go do that, sit at home and wait for me, you know, be denied all this, that. It goes both ways. You can't just as a cuckoldress take, you have to also give. And that means you have to give emotional support, you have to give emotional stability. That aftercare can be really important. And you have to make sure that your partner understands at the end of the day, at the end of a day, a weekend, whatever, of merciless teasing and denial, that they are still your number one, and that everything's okay.
Yeah, I think that that's a critical thing to understand is because Lexi is the queen of teasing and denial and like all that kind of stuff. She is just any of the guys who work with her as any of her plethora of cucks can attest to the fact that she is really good at teasing. But it is that critical moment where you kind of check in, with the other
Hmm.
person. I think that's really, really important. What do you think is the biggest gap between, because you talk to so many guys who have a fantasy and you
Hmm.
talk to me, what do you think is the biggest gap between what fantasy is and reality in this lifestyle?
Um, I guess, well, for me, I would say finding good bulls. I talked about this with Venus, and she agrees. It's hard to find a good bull. It's hard to find guys out there that are reliable and consistent, that have what it takes to make a good bull and be a good third party in this dynamic. I thought it was going to be easy when we first started this, and it's been a little bit more difficult than I imagined it would be.
Yeah, I think that that is a big challenge. The quote unquote bulls are really
Mhm.
super flaky.
They are
So I'm not sure how many of them.
fuckers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, frankly, some of the cucks are too, but I find them a little bit more reliable because they really want the fantasy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I do too.
they really want the fantasy. I think the bulls chicken out because
Yeah,
they don't want to have to perform in front of somebody else or something like that. I'm
maybe.
not sure that how many of them are actually, I think that's another thing. Because I was about to say, I'm not sure how many the Bulls are brave enough to actually do it. What do you think is the gap between fantasy and reality and the thought that, a lot of cucks, there's a perception of weakness there? What is your thought there?
Oh, yeah, and I think that's a reason why a lot of cucks don't come forward is this sort of illusion or thought that maybe being a cuck makes you weak in some way. And it's actually quite the opposite. I mean, in order to be submissive and give up control like that, that actually takes a lot of power. And it's not something that everyone can do, and a lot of these bulls could never. It is absolutely a giving up of control. It is voluntary. It's something that weak men could never do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, being a cuck is actually pretty freaking hard sometimes. So, especially when you have a ball buster like Lexi over here, but she's wonderful. Actually, she's an amazing cuckoldress. I'm gonna get my balls slapped after this, aren't I?
A little bit.
Oh, what do you think people underestimate the most about going into this dynamic? And I mean, from my perspective, I think cucks underestimate. how much this is not a porn and how there's real emotions involved and just how they're going to be impacted. It it's all super hot until the post nut clarity. It's all like really hot until like, and then like 10 seconds after you think about, having Jack in the Box munchie meals and how sad you are. So it's something that, I think a lot of cucks underestimate that. It's just like, yeah, like there's like real emotion. And it's a little bit easier when you're present, when you're like in the room with me, which doesn't happen all that often, but like when you're there, you're physically there and like, I don't know, like everything's kind of fine right after. When you're not there, I don't really have to worry about post-nut clarity because you lock me up now. So like that doesn't happen, but it's
Rightfully
still,
so.
yeah, but it's still just like, when that spot in the bed is empty, like that's something you have to like just be able to absorb, and you can't put that on your partner. Especially if you're the one that asked for it. And what are your thoughts?
No, I agree entirely. I mean, I expect that whenever I come home, there's going to be a certain amount of aftercare, just to, reassure my partner that, he is my number one and that everything is okay, and just figuring out where his head is at, where you are and how you're feeling and everything like that. Um, but yeah, I definitely think it's always post nut clarity, because before then I don't have to worry about you. I'm like, I'm having fun, cuck. Why are you bothering me?
Mhm. Yeah, but now, like I said, like that's not a problem anymore. And so like we're normally pretty good. But yeah, oh, the new thing. We had mentioned this on Venus's Pillow Talk, but if you didn't hear it, the new thing is when she's out on a date. So and Lexi will give you all her website and Fansly and all that afterwards. But she now, instead of like giving me updates, what she does is she posts updates on the date onto her Fansly account. So I find out at the exact same time, a lot of times after your fans do. Talk about the origin of that idea. I mean, that is just devilishly like it's as Venus would say, cuckoldress 5,000. We're to talk about that.
I I think that if I remember correctly, the idea came from, I was trying to give him an update before I posted something, and then I decided, why am I doing that? Why? Like, you can just find out at the same time.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. It makes for great content, but it also just drives me freaking nuts as her cuck. It's freaking awesome, man. I don't know where you come up with this stuff. Like you're just you're the best at teasing. Um, what do you think are the biggest mistakes people make in this dynamic?
Mm, I mean, I would say, one from my perspective, ladies, sometimes the power can get to your head a little bit, and it's, especially when your cucks are craving that denial, it's easy to start denying too much, and that's never good. So, I mean, you really have to be careful with how much, how long, how often you're denying. Because if you do it too much, then that can create a problem in the relationship. And suddenly he feels like something is happening to him instead of with him. And so I think just power, and the beauty and art of denial, 1 second he's loving it, but if you take it too far, it can be detrimental.
Yeah, and I think on the other side, the biggest one of the biggest mistakes is, well, obviously, before it even gets started, the way that a cuck approaches it with a partner or with a spouse, anything like that's normally a giant fuck up. But then also just expecting too much too soon. You can't you can't hit a home run every single time like on the first time out. Like
Yeah.
on the first time that your partner agrees to do this, it's not going to end in a gangbang in the middle of a sex club. Like it's just like, but this is the mind of a cuck
Yeah.
that wants that. Like that's literally what, wait, the wife said yes. Yes.
And go.
Yeah, yes may mean I will go have a drink with
Yeah,
somebody and see how it goes.
exactly. Don't push
And
too hard, too fast.
and the overwhelming odds are that she will come home after having a nice glass of wine, and that'll be it
Yeah.
for that night.
Yeah.
But look, maybe she got a taste and she's willing to go out on another date. Maybe she liked it, maybe she hated it. I mean, what do you think about that, honey? I think that's a huge mistake cucks make is that they want too much too soon. And maybe use me as an example or some of the guys that you work with. Obviously, none of them we would never call anybody out, but just like what do you see in terms of cucks making this mistake about wanting too much too soon?
Well, I see it forms a sort of pressure to their partner. So it very quickly goes from, oh, my partner has this fantasy, let me consider it, to I feel pressure to perform. I feel pressure to do what my partner wants. And it's no longer become a fun little game between us. It's no longer a fun little fantasy that we were potentially going to explore together. It's become pressure. And I feel like I'm being pushed. And that's just a guaranteed way to get it to never freaking happen.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about who this kind of a lifestyle works for. So when you think about, I mean, there are a lot of different kind of lifestyles, right?
Right?
And different kind of personalities. What kind of a personality do you think fits really well into a cuckold marriage or a cuckold relationship?
Well, I think both partners have to be pretty frisky. Um,
Yeah, agreed. High five.
I think that, secondary to that, though, if you do not have a truly emotionally mature relationship where both partners are emotionally mature and are able to have a conversation whenever maybe things get awkward, someone feels a little pushed, maybe someone feels a little uncomfortable, pressured, anything like that, or something goes wrong in not just the first one or but several after that, some sort of experience, something doesn't quite go according to the visual image that one of the partners had. If you guys are not able to be communicative and really sit down and be like, hey, this is great and all, but when this happened, I was kind of expecting it to be more like this, and it kind of made me feel a little like this, and blah, blah, blah. If you're not able to have those conversations, things are not going to end well. It's avoidance is not good. Resentment is not good. So you have to be able to speak to one another and have enough respect to hear the other person out.
That's the key. I think that the key to this is the couples that can make it work are the ones who can communicate and trust each other and forgive each other and just be able to create this sense of emotional security. Venus talked about this with you
Mhm.
that when I started to explore my submissive side, she really picked up on something when she said it, and she said, you've created a space of emotional security. And I completely agree with that. And I think that's part of what makes this dynamic work is having a team where the partner can feel vulnerable. And that's the environment that you create for me is this just I feel safe to be able to say what's on my mind, what I need, what I don't need, what I need to stop, what I need you to accelerate. Um, and I feel like you and I just have so many deep conversations and such an interesting, unique life that is, pretty cool. We have a lot of fun together. That's for sure. What do you think though are red flags that maybe the dynamic is going off the rails?
Mm,
Let's say you're doing it for a while and then all of a sudden you're like, like something's off.
I mean, again, I think that a lack of maybe aftercare can sometimes cause um, some resentment, maybe in the cuck. I think that um, sometimes if there's too much pushing by the cuck for this sort of dynamic, then there's resentment caused on the part of the female in the relationship. Maybe, one minute she's feeling like queen of the world, and the next she's feeling a lot of pressure, Like she has to keep performing over and over again. And if it's not enjoyable for both parties at all times, it's there's a problem. It doesn't mean it's not solvable, but it means that you guys need to talk about it and be open and see, it's not a blame game. It's about moving forward. What, how can this look better and more like how both parties want it to look?
Yeah. Again, it's just always going to circle back to that communication and I think some of the red flags, if you see the cuck withdrawing, if you notice more sadness than joy, if you like, you just got to be attuned to that. You got to be willing to hit pause on the dynamic when it needs to be paused.
Hmm.
Because this is real life. There's real life, responsibilities and running a house and all that stuff and hurt feelings and all those kind of things. I wrote an article on your website about she was nice enough to allow me to write one of her a blog post about the blender of emotions that goes into cuckolding. And so you have to be aware of that stuff and on both sides and be willing to say, hey, pause, time out, like, okay, like that felt good until it didn't.
Hmm.
Like it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. Do you think that, so you and I were doing this from pretty much the word go. Do you think somebody can grow into it? Like, let's say somebody's been married for like 20 years. The guy hasn't brought it up, but like he does, but like, can that happen after that long of a period of time?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've grown into it. We didn't start off this way. I think that it's very rare for a couple or a new relationship, whatever, to just go from 0 to 60. That's not realistic. That's not how it works. I think that a lot of times if a couple wants to, especially, if the man, let's face it, wants to go to a cuckold relationship, um, starting off as hot wife, sort of stag vixen type thing is a really good way to transition into it instead of going straight into cuckolding. Um, it's we started off that way. We didn't start off, doing cuckoldress, cuckold. We started off stag vixen and hot wife and all that. And once we went from that to you know, cuck and cuckoldress, we also went to after that we went to FLR, which is female led relationship. So it's in every relationship. I mean, it's highly likely that this is how it's going to be. It's always going to grow. It's not going to progress, or it's not going to just start from nothing and go to 190. It's There's a progression, and that's very, very common.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning when we were Stag Vixen and we were doing almost exclusively threesomes, with another guy joining us, there was never any kind of like we're not into the male kind of touching, but I mean that's we're both focused on you. And I think that was a comfortable way for all of us to get started because then you weren't alone. Like I was able to be in the room and get accustomed to it. And yeah, I think that's really good advice, Lexi, is just about kind of taking it one step at a time. So I guess my what one of my last questions for you is what happens when cucks always want this? But I know that from a woman's perspective, I mean, there's different times of the month where you feel differently about about sex and all that stuff. Can you help cucks understand why this is a hard thing to sustain like 365 days a year?
Yeah,
And also how non-sexual that what we were talking about living the lifestyle can fill the gaps of like when you're not feeling it's turned on.
Okay. So, for one thing, then it's impossible for y'all to understand because you don't have to freaking deal with it. But y'all's hormones change over the span of 24 hours. Your hormones in the morning are going to be different than how they are in the middle of the day and in the evening. They do have a cycle. However, they're not nearly as intense or extreme as ours, and they're not based on a 24-hour clock. Ours are not based on that. Ours are based on a, 4-week type of thing. And so there are going to be weeks where your partner is going to be raring to go, ready, let's do this. And you're going to be on top of the moon. And there are going to be weeks or days or whatever that she's like, how about no? And you don't take it personally. It's not, chances are it's not about you. It is about her. It's not her fault. We have different hormones that are raging through our bodies and brains that naturally cause us to feel differently and act differently sexually. And so, but ladies who might be listening to this, it's during those times when maybe you're not exactly raring to go that that's a good time for you to go into that denial mode that our cucks love so much and be that extreme tease, do the things that you need to do to keep him drooling, but he doesn't actually get you. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Ladies, take that advice. Guys, wannabe cucks, actual cucks, like you know what I'm talking about. Like the denial part of it, just the teasing, that the little kind of jabs, like we're watching a movie and you're like, hey, I'd love to fuck that actor, or whatever, like whatever you say, like it's just like out of nowhere. And it's just that's it. That's all it takes. It's pretty cool when you do that. So one of the things I wanted to try to do every one of these episodes that we do is bring something up that you didn't expect and kind of spring it on you. So
Good.
I think that it would be fun if the audience kind of heard a little bit about the story because, we talk about Lexie being so good at the teasing and about just the cuckolders 5,000 type of stuff. So I want to talk about the time we went to Dave and Buster's and you won the, what was that thing?
Stuffed sloth.
It was a sloth. So we go to Dave and Buster's and one of Lexie's favorite things to do is win giant stuffed animals. So
Love it.
we spent the nights with her with the goal of getting this giant sloth, right? Do you remember that darn thing?
I remember.
And the entire night, not only was she playing video games, but she was flirting with most of the staff there at Dave and Buster's. And just being a little bit kind of as I was walking around holding her like holding her drink and holding her like card for tickets and all that stuff. And then eventually you did win that.
Damn right.
You did win that, but
So
then
good.
what did you have me do next?
Well, after that, we went to a club, I think it was,
Mhm.
and I had you freaking hold my purse and my sloth while I danced with other guys.
Yes. It was pretty epic and pretty freaking embarrassing, humiliating.
You're welcome.
Kind of standing in the corner holding a fucking giant sloth and a purse while she's in the middle of the dance floor, just like, and then the worst part is you bring one of the guys with us to have Denny's afterwards.
Oh yeah.
It's the worst fucking part.
I just
But yeah, but by the way, guys, and that was the end of the night. He didn't go home with us or anything like that. But see, that's a perfect example of it doesn't all have to be about the sex, right?
hmm
Like there was no sex that night. I don't even think you and I had it. I don't remember if we did, but I mean what I remember about that night was the fun game that we played, because cuckolding is it's a game, folks. Like have fun with it's a lifestyle, but it's also like a really fun game that you can play with your partner. I mean, what was your favorite part about just being able to do that whole night, and what did you think about the fact that it involved no sex at all?
Oh, I mean, I loved every single moment of it. I got to play games. I got to get a giant stuffed animal, which Lord knows wherever the hell that thing went. But I got to uh, make eyes with him across the room while I am busy dancing with other guys, and he's sitting there just like embarrassed holding my stuffed animal in my purse. Um, I it was just fun all the way through.
It was. So before we take off, want to quickly just let you guys know we mentioned that Lexi does coaching and also virtual and in-person experiences. Do you want to talk? So a little bit about this is that kind of I had brought it up to Lexi, initially when she started to cut me, and I was like, dude, you are amazing at this. Like, I wish you were around, like back when I couldn't find somebody. Like, I can't hoard you to myself. So why don't you talk about what you started to do and like how it's going?
Well, I mean, I do coaching, and that coaching is multifaceted. It's I do coaching for men who are um, single, in a relationship, married, who want this sort of lifestyle, single guys who want to know how to bring it up, how to do it right, guys in a relationship who want to know how to bring it up and do it right, and guys in a relationship who tried without help and kind of, you know, just just absolutely dive bombed it and it went terrible. And they're trying to recover it and they're trying to see if it's still possible. I also do relationship coaching for couples that are, trying to navigate this because it's some murky waters and there is some navigating that is very helpful. And then, I also talk to women who are thinking about it, whether it's that their husband or partner has already talked with me and brought it up to them, and they're kind of wondering, what the heck should I think about this? And I kind of guide them through and help them see the positives and how wonderful this lifestyle can be. I also do virtual cuckolding and in-person, like immersive experiences. Um, and yeah, I mean, everything's very customized. So it's whatever, I like to help people. So that's what I do.
I mean, it's so cool. I mean, sometimes I get to go and like play the role of the bull, which is not normally obviously my role in this dynamic. But
You do it so well.
I do it so well, mostly because I have the mind of a cuck, so I know exactly what a cuck wants to hear from a bull. But yeah, and so I mean, you run them through the whole like 9 yards of like the cuck night, like right?
Yeah.
Like I mean,
It's from it's immersive. It's from getting um ready. I mean, it takes time to look this fabulous, okay? And they help me get ready. They hold my freaking makeup brushes while I am putting on makeup for someone else. It's everything. There's so much that can be involved in it.
yeah, it is fun. And your website, what is your website so guys can find you if they want to talk to you about coaching or about one of these virtual or online experiences, them joining your stable of cucks?
It's Cuckold Lexie, and that's Lexie.com. I can be found there.
Yeah. Reach out to Lexi that way. So this has been a lot of fun. We covered a lot of ground here. I have no idea how long this lasted, so sorry folks if this episode is really long, but really want to thank you, Lexi, for being such a good partner. And
Aw.
that's, I think the key to, I hope what you all as listeners take from our talks is a lot of hot stuff. You're going to hear a lot of hot stories. You're going to hear a lot of good advice. You're going to hear a lot of good guests. But I hope that you also lean into the fact that our dynamic is that what really makes our dynamic strong is our communication, our trust, and our deep admiration and love for each other. Right, honey?
Absolutely.
Am I wrong? Am I just
So
speaking out of turn?
absolutely wrong. Nope.
Well, Lexi has a fun night in store for her, if you know what I mean. So we got to let her
Yeah.
go to go get finished with that. But thank you all, and we will talk to you again very soon.